Okay, so this is our criminal complaint notice of felony. So, in the beginning here, this is going to the Judicial Conduct Commission. I've already filed this, but I'm going to go over this with you. This is a big, long one. I'm going after the judges. I'm going after everybody involved. So, comes now me, complainant, acting in the name and interest of we the people. Okay, I do swear I'm competent and sound mind. Best of my knowledge, everything here is true and correct. And we go into the charges. You can see the charges there. You can stop it, read all that if you want. Uh, Obviously, everything's in there. Um, this is Article 1, Section 10. Grants the state authority to enter into an agreement or compact with another state with the consent of Congress. This is talking about how the state goes into obligations of contracts, which is what these guys have done with ORS. It's voluntary. They contract into it, and that proves that they are a clerk. So, Mark Corris, he's the judge. Michelle Tack, she was the commissioner that did the paperwork. Taking an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution, did willfully and knowingly violate said oath in a family court divorce decree by failing a timely move to protect and defend the Utah Constitution, the United States Constitution, and the rights of the complainant, and to timely defend parties' rights to a trial by jury, failed to protect me, involved both parties involved in the said divorce proceeding, violated due process, all that stuff. Provide protection from involuntary servitude to a state agency, and they're guilty of treason, sedition, and all being a felony and perjury of their oath of office. So as soon as they go into contract with ORS, they cease to be a judge and they work for ORS. Okay? Mark and Michelle, in divorce decree, did willfully and knowingly violate my rights in a family court proceeding by failing to protect my right to a trial, due process, parental rights, equal parenting time, and seizure of property, and further, by fraudulently sealing real property from me and giving away $250,000 worth of stuff to my ex-wife, inserting child support into my life with no authority, no subject matter jurisdiction, no evidence of harm to the child, no evidence of unfitness, and no evidence submitted to a court of law that would entitle this clerk or this commissioner to intervene into my right of being a parent and raise my children free from government interference. Mark Corris and Michelle Tack were involved in theft by deception, by seizure of property from the complainant without a warrant for any statute or code enforced by a clerk is void. Okay? Count 3 here is they knowingly and intentionally inserted a single and separate federally funded child support agency into the lives of parents without consent. Okay? Without due process, and have destroyed my life financially and emotionally and without remorse, and they do it on a regular basis, without authority, without evidence, without subject matter jurisdiction, and without compensation. Okay? Count, was that 4? They oversee and adjudicate family court matters in Tooele County, that's 30 miles from Salt Lake, without judicial oversight. Prepare divorce decree paperwork, knowing the complainant is not there to defend himself at this kangaroo court. They know it's not legal, with full knowledge that their mission is to make sure that child support is priority. And it is a fact, for the divorce decree is 15 pages long, and 11 out of 15 pages are codes and statutes and unlawful plans to make me into an obligor, a non-custodial parent, or a debtor. In other words, a slave to Office of Recovery Services, which proves the divorce proceeding is in fact a fraud and has nothing to do with cutting ties between parents and has everything to do with inserting the state into parents' lives. Names, let's see, parents' lives to collect names and social security numbers, coerce financial information, all done under duress, given to state agencies without consent and for monetary gain, and then all the paperwork is signed by a judge who was at the proceeding, which also means the judge is fraudulently signing off on a fraudulent order without due process, awarding the default real property, which also verifies official misconduct, treason, and a conflict of interest because he works for ORS. And further, Bill of Attainder, that's what that is. You know what that is probably. If not, I'll stop it there. You can read it. Okay? That means, where are we at? Count 5. When a commissioner and a judge works for the child support agency, they are not in fact judicial, they are clerks. Okay? And they cease to be lawful once they contract in said agency and no longer unbiased and lose immunity, and they are indeed in contract, enslave men as they can to benefit the state treasury. Having knowledge and intentionally enslaving me is part of their job. Knowing family court is administrative and void of judicial authority. They use these codes and statutes in the Utah Code annotated to steal property, insert the government, violate rights, and make a commercial transaction out of nothing. Mark and Michelle, having knowledge of the law, sworn and uphold the law, and working for the courts, is bound to protect both parties and are required by law to follow due process. And if Clerk Tack and Clerk Chorus have standing and subject matter jurisdiction, let them appear in court. As a matter of fact, I demand they appear in court under penalty of perjury and swear under oath and produce a true copy of their oath of office and surety bond and prove jurisdiction, for they have damaged me by impersonating a judge, because a judge loses judicial immunity when he violates the law and his oath. And the law requires proof of jurisdiction to appear on the record. They have no proof of that. And of all administrative agencies and all administrative proceedings. And that's Higgins versus Levine. Once jurisdiction is challenged, it cannot proceed. Okay, this is all the case law that has to do with jurisdiction. Mark and Michelle both work for the state of Utah, are in contract with ORS, and the money collected benefits the state treasury and pays their salary. Therefore, it is a conflict of interest, and both parties are guilty of signing a void divorce decree, for they have neither seen nor entered any evidence as to intervention of ORS, nor can they prove due process was protected, nor can they prove trial by jury was waived. Know that the ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Both parties stated above conducting a barrage of treasonous assaults on me. And further, the following is a list of acts committed against we the people, for I am not the only one that this fraud has been committed against. Gain, extortion, racketeering, embezzlement, you can read all that, theft by deception, deprivation of rights, and it's just plain uncool. And now defendants must prove that they have standing and prove they have followed the rule of law, and by all means, please show the court your authority to seize, coerce, and circumvent. And for the record, all statutes and codes that violate the law are null and void per U.S. Supreme Court rulings and case laws. And there's some of them there. Here's Chapter 18, Title 18, Part 1, Chapter 79. This is perjury, this perjury. Generally, whoever, and then it goes into detail. I'll stop it so you can read that. Okay? That's perjuring your oath. Owing allegiance to the United States, the Constitution, Utah Constitution, did willfully and knowfully give aid and comfort to those defendants herein, the Office of Recovery Services, State of Utah, 3rd District Court, they're all corporations, and all other agencies who are in contract with those acts are subversive to the United States, the Republic of Utah, and are destroying our children, our churches, our homes, our government, our contracts. It's destroying everything. And then I go into they're punishable under all these. So you got Title 18, subsection 4. You've got misprision. I think that's French. Of felony. You've got treason. Misprision of treason, rebellion. You've got seditious conspiracy. Hey, these two people here taking an oath to support and defend did willfully and knowingly violate their oath in an open court of law by violating constitutional rights of a Utah citizen, by not upholding the Bill of Rights, which is a felony, and proof of conspiracy to deprivation me of my rights. And that's 241 and that's 242. We all know what those are. Let's see. There's count 10. having taken a fraudulent oath as a political subdivision of the state, assumed positive as a private person, not having immunity or privilege within the intent of the original 14th Amendment or 11th Amendment, did willfully and knowingly violate the constitutional rights of the citizen electors, the people. We elected these people and gave them trust, and they violated it. As soon as they signed on to this, they violated their oath. Okay? The entire classification of the 14th Amendment, persons have engaged in Section 4 rebellion against insurrection against lawful authority and have created a public debt. That's you and me, people. Okay? Title 31, Section 3729, false claims. Okay? So they're writing up false claims. Here's all the documentation about that. Criminal forfeiture, criminal asset forfeiture. That's what this is. So basically they say, well, since we've made you into a corporation, you have no rights. We can take all your shit. Here's Title 18, 1957, engaging in monetary transactions, which is what they're doing, in property, derived from a specific unlawful activity. Well, that kind of breaks it right down there, doesn't it? And then it just goes into huge detail about that. Civil rights remedies. Okay, this is Title 42 of the Civil Rights Act, what is it? There it is, Civil Rights Act of 64, right there. Okay, this has to do with you can't do that. Here's frauds and swindles, 1341, Title 18, 1343, elements of wire fraud, all that shit they do through the mail. It's all fraud, and it's all considered mail fraud. Okay, everything they send you in the mail, all those bogus void orders and stuff, it's all mail fraud. Okay, here's count 11. Having taken an oath defending the United States, blah, blah, blah. Said violate oath means obstruction of justice and a law by violating constitutional rights of state citizens and not upholding his Bill of Rights, which is a felony under the Anti-Corruption Act of number 64. Okay, it's all in there about public officials and what they can do, what they can't, what's considered. There's a definition of a scheme or artifice to defraud. Okay, here's the U.S. Attorney's Criminal Procedure Manual, and this goes into what you can do, admission of justice, or excuse me, the due administration of justice. Okay, this thing is long and involved. You got to read all this. Here, I'll stop it for you. But this is basically United States attorneys, who's involved, who has jurisdiction, who doesn't have immunity. There's all the case law for it. Here's some more. This is the omnibus clause. I think we've heard about that before somewhere. I'll stop this for you too, so you can read this. This goes into civil asset forfeiture again, and this is crazy, man. If you read this, it's like, okay, well, they could take it unless this and this happens, and then they can do this unless this happens. And in order for them to do this, they got to have this and they got to have that. And then if they don't have this and this happens, and it's just ridiculous. There's so much information in there. But I'm not going to bore you with all that. But it's just miles and miles of codes and what they can do and what they can't do. All right, I'm running out of time again. All right, so this one says, having taken an oath, forth the statutes and codes, violate or overrule any higher court rulings, then they can't do that. Okay, here's disloyalty. Here's loyalty in striking. Okay, here's another one. They're in contract with the state to administer my property. And then we're getting to the end here. So basically, I said that they're defrauding the federal government for funds by putting me on their ledger and telling the federal government that they're collecting $25,000 and then getting their 66 cents on the dollar, which is all a fraud, and we all know it. So there's my invoice for damages. I'm asking for $40 million, and I demand you arrest these people, and I want a seizure of all evidence, man. I want all of their paperwork, and I want everybody shut down, and I want everybody put in jail. And if you try to stop me, or you try to cover up this felony, you're busted too. So this is going to be 1983. This is 1988. We don't know what those are. And then here's my attorney's fees. So you guys have a nice day. That's the next one I'm going to stick down their throat.